Jigsaw really started from James and I wanting to make a film. James really badly wanted to direct. You know, I met him at film school and he used to make these little claymations. For myself, I was kind of interested in writing and directing and acting. And so eventually our problems sort of met in the middle. It was like, if we make our own film, I can play the lead and you can direct.
They used to come into the office all the time and have these talk about different ideas and what they were going to be doing, and they'd go away and they'd go right in a corner and then they'd come back.
I rang him one day and I go, hey Leigh, I've got the idea for this film that we're gonna make. It's about two guys, they're stuck in this room, they're chained to both ends of this dungy, decrepit old bathroom. Lying in between them is a dead body. In one of the dead body's hand is a tape recorder. In the other hand is a gun, and each of these characters find these little mini tapes in their possession which they play, and there's a voice on the tape recorder that tells them what's going to happen to them if they don't play this game. And every now and then we will keep cutting away to the villain, and at the end of the film, just when you think the main villain is the guy who's engineered this whole thing, the guy laying in the middle of the floor the entire film gets up and walks out the door.
And it then fell to me as the writer to decide why they're chained up in the room and who put them there. And so Jigsaw really was birthed from that. It's like, who put them in this room? Well, it's obviously a bad guy. Why did he do it? And I started thinking about what the theme of the film could be. If tomorrow a doctor was to tell you that your life was going to end in 3 weeks because you're suffering some disease, everything would change. You would look at things differently. But I was thinking it would be interesting if somebody got told by a doctor that they had a year to live and they snapped. I thought it would be interesting to have this person use their death sentence, this cancer thing, as a way of teaching other people to open their eyes. And I think James expected me to come back to him in a month with a finished script, and it didn't work out like that. I tortured the guy for it was 9 months? It took me 9 months to finish the first draft. When I finally gave him the script, it was the day before Christmas, and he called me and was like, this is great, you know, it's much bigger than we can afford. We both realised that it had kind of gone beyond the money we had saved. So then the next predicament was, what do we do now?
And we realised that if you're not going to have any big stars attached to your film, right? If you're not going to have any big special effects, it's what helps sell the film, then the script itself needed to be the star of the film, so to speak. So because of that, we spent a long time trying to work on the screenplay and trying to hone it and craft it as good as we possibly could. And the irony was, because we spent so much time on the screenplay, other people read it and then thought, hey guys, you know, this is actually a pretty decent script here. You should not try and just make it with your own money. Let's see if we can get a bit more money and let's see if we can do it properly.
There was a couple of producers in Australia and they happened to call up and they happened to be looking for a low-budget horror genre film set in a self-contained space with a couple of people in it. So the script was optioned out of Australia. And as usual with these sort of genre pictures, it's really hard to get it made.
And for one reason or another, it didn't work. So when our manager, Stacey, said, why don't we take it to America? Which I always say was like, you know, trying to climb up a sand dune and not being able to make it. And your friends saying, oh, it's cool, like, don't worry about it. We'll try Everest next week.
And then before we know it, we were asked to come to LA to meet up with these guys. And Leigh and I thought that, hey, look, you know, we're really broke right now. We don't have any money. But we thought if we're going to go all the way to LA for a handshake, we might as well shoot a scene from the script to show these people that we're not just writers, but we're filmmakers as well.
We just got some friends together, people that we knew, and banged it together really quickly.
We picked one scene from the script and we shot it, and then we took it with us to LA.
I was sitting at an agency waiting for a meeting that was running late, and another agent who's a friend of mine came out and had this sort of glazed look in his eye, looked and saw me sitting there and said, do you have 5 minutes? And I said, yeah, what? He goes, I just want to show you something. It was the short that our director, James Wan, had shot of a sequence that appears in the movie. And about 2 or 3 minutes into it, my jaw hit the floor, and I said, what are you doing with this? Don't do anything. Let me go do something. And I ran with the DVD and the script and took it to my partners.
And it was the kind of thing you watch, and then you liked it so much you wanted to watch it again.
It was just blew our minds, and then quickly that night we all read the script and tried to get in on this.
The scene is what sealed it. You know, they could see it. It changed their view of us as like being writers to, oh, so you make films. And we thought there'd be a stack of DVDs sitting on the guy's desk, and then there'd be our little 16mm thing that wouldn't look any good, but for some reason people really liked it, so it's great.
Before James and Leigh Whannell had even landed, they were on their way from Australia to LA. While they were in the air, we had basically made an offer and said, if they're not crazy, we'll put up the money ourselves.
I swear it was so wonderful. We sat down, James had his book with all the graphics, talking about the script, talking about the project, how he wants to shoot it. Within 5 minutes, Greg and Oren had basically said, okay, well, we're doing it.
The thing we offered James and Leigh was that we were going to start in 8 weeks. And no one else can ever guarantee you that. There's always rewrites, there's casting. And we also guaranteed James as director, as someone that came out of a film school, and Leigh to be the actor. We basically gave them everything they wanted and start in 8 weeks.
Mark and Oren and I all felt that if we could get the same reaction to the short and the script as we had, that people would be willing to come play in our sandbox.
Because the film was shot so quickly, it wasn't like we were telling them that, you know, we needed half a year out of their life to go to another country to make this film. It literally was, hey man, come down for like 2-3 days, you know, just down the street in downtown LA and we'll have fun.
Carrie was one of the first people who actually saw the script and responded immediately.
When you get a script and a DVD at the same time, you know, your inclination is to throw the DVD in and check it out. Well, I gotta tell you, I sat there and looked at that and went, whoa. I mean, it was so unbelievably out there and dark and interesting. I mean, I was sold from the minute I saw that DVD. I sent an email to the producers with one word, which was wow, exclamation mark. And they called me the next day and they said, do you want to meet the filmmakers? The director's here in town and he'd love to meet with you. And I was like, let's do it. 2 days later, I met with James and he had a portfolio under his arm. And he opens it up and he's got drawings of the set, he's got the costumes, he's got the doll that he designed himself and built himself, he's got the mask, this reverse bear trap mask. And I was just blown away. You know, I'm thinking, this guy, how much time have these guys got on their hands that they're actually building real contraptions, you know?
The rest, again, were the script went out with the short and people responded.
I like to think of a story as a very twisted morality tale. Jigsaw is a serial killer who likes to take his victims and torture them, and in the process of torturing them and bringing them to the brink of killing them, get them to appreciate their lives.
He wants them to know what it feels like to have to struggle for your own life. People who sometimes see other people struggling, see patients struggling for their lives, but don't necessarily have as much compassion as they might.
He's not actually punishing people for their sins. He's not one of those killers. He's a guy who wants to help you appreciate life and not take it for granted. I think that's what sets him different to a lot of the other movie serial killers. His motive is very different. He wants to help people out. If you can survive one of his games, you know, he's happy for that. He wants you to survive his games, because that way then, you know, if you make it out of one of his game alive, then he believes, you know, you'll be a better person.
It was basically a message of, you know, enjoy every day you live and respect the fact that you're able to live and do something with your life.
That's one of the things that attracted us to the film immediately, was that it was trying to say something, that it did have a theme, that it did have a moral message despite, you know, these smears of blood throughout the bathroom and everywhere else.
I really did not have a lot of prep time because I spend 2/3 of my pre-production time up in Ottawa, Canada.
He needed to go to Canada to sort out his working papers, his visas and stuff like that.
So by the time I got back to LA for the film, I really only had 1 week of pre-production, and my DP came on board 4 days before we had to shoot the film, so there really wasn't any prep time at all.
I asked James if we could have a little time to rehearse, and he was kind of grateful that I said little time, because we really had no prep time on this film. We really jumped right into it.
The production designers had hardly any time to build all the sets. James had hardly any time to plan all his shots, you know, and the actors didn't have much time to rehearse anything.
I like to have rehearsals because things you find in that rehearsal space that you won't have time to find when the clock's ticking are often gems that the director is usually very excited about. These guys were totally open to trying different things. And that was fun too, to be in an atmosphere where the screenwriter and the director were both playful and fun about it. And, you know, and they were like listening to ideas from everybody, and that's a wonderful atmosphere to be in.
You know, I know after the first rehearsal, Carrie called me and said, wow, these guys are amazing. This is going to be fantastic. And you start hearing things like that even before the cameras roll, and you kind of, you know, take a deep breath and settle a little bit.
The producers, Greg, Mark and Oren, told us this is going to be down and dirty, it's low budget, and it's probably not going to turn out to be the film you've envisaged in your head.
I had storyboards very early on in the shoot, but when I realized that I was never going to get the shots I had planned, it was like the storyboards were out the window. And I was literally just making shots up on set, you know, just making it up on the spot, trying to just trying to make it work, basically. We shot the film in 35mm and in 1.85 to 1. Originally, I wanted to shoot it in 2.35, but everyone was telling me that you need more lights, you need more expensive lenses, you need to build more of the sets because it's a wider screen format. So I'm like, oh, okay. So from the very first day, it was all about compromise with this film. I definitely think for me, from a directing point of view, the hardest thing was having a very strong vision in your head, but not being able to stick to it. On a good day, the actors would get like 2 takes.
James would ask for a third take and the AD would be like, what do you think you are, Kubrick?
You know, like I'll spend a whole day trying to get my shots done, and when I wouldn't get the shots, I would just end up getting really depressed, and I would kind of like just stay there on set while everyone else has gone off to lunch and go, oh man, what can I do to fix up my shots? So I would spend a big chunk of my lunchtime just literally not having lunch and just thinking about the shots.
Most of the time, James would be pacing with the script in one hand and a can of Coke in the other. He'd just be pacing, trying to figure out what to do, so I just kept well away.
You have to have a creative approach to it, when you don't have any money to work with.
The budget limits, again, the amount of toys, but I think it enhances the creativity because you always have to find a new and interesting way around a problem that crops up.
I knew that the only way we were going to be able to make this movie for this budget was to shoot it in 18 days and to be in one place. If we had to have trucks and move around and do all that, there was no way we were ever going to get it done. So I called up Greg and I said, okay, I know how to do this. There's this perfect place. It's this old warehouse, and it's got 3 buildings and some courtyards. And some guys took it over and they rented out as a film facility.
Lacey Street Studios afforded us every single thing we needed, every location, dressing rooms, the works.
Luckily for us, you know, it really fitted into the theme of the film and the visual aesthetic of the film, right? That I didn't really need, you know, huge, expensive-looking sets. I basically needed sets that look run down, and this place was perfect for it.
Within the space, there's a couple of what they call standing sets. There's like an apartment set and a courtyard set and a police station set. And then there's just like weird shaped rooms and corridors and all this kind of stuff. And the bathroom set was the only set that we built from scratch. Everything else was a modification of something that existed and still does exist at Lacey.
We wouldn't have been able to make the movie if we had to pack up and make location changes. And so we were very fortunate being able to find one location that had enough rooms and warehouses and what have you that we could use to create all the different locations that we needed for the film.
And so for us, a location move meant my going, okay guys, we're on to the next set, and everybody'd grab a cart and we'd push it over, 100 feet to the next little room that was there, and we'd start shooting.
We never ever had to move the company from the day we started to the day we finished. And that's really what enabled us to put it together.
Once we figured out where we were going to build the bathroom, then we walked around with James, and it was all about picking what we were going to shoot where. And I printed out a list of the remaining sets that we needed, and we walked around, and we were saying, okay, where do we want to shoot the detective's desk? Oh, okay, right over here. And a number of the sets were literally just empty rooms. It was just done by set dressing. The jaw trap room is this totally empty space, exactly the way we found it. And we put just no lights. We let everything go to black. Shawnee Smith, with this jaw trap on, is sitting in a chair, and we set up a circular dolly around the chair. And we just went around and around and around at different camera speeds, at different dolly speeds. And that was it. And the razor wire room is another example. We were walking around. I think we had picked just about everything except where we were going to shoot the razor wire room. And James goes, well, what's that? There's this big oak door in the floor. I said, well, that leads down to the crawl space underneath this building. And James was like, oh, this is cool, we have to shoot here. I said, well, you know, Danny Glover's like 6'5", so you know he's not gonna be able to really stand up down. No, we gotta shoot down here. And that was the day that David Armstrong, our director of photography, camera operator, picks up the camera and puts it on his shoulder, turns around, bam, smacks his head right into one of the floorboards. And we had to send him to the hospital for a concussion, and our gaffer shot the rest of the scene. So there was finding places like that existed. If Lacey hadn't existed, it would have been an extremely difficult project to do.
I came over about a week before we started shooting, and so the first moment that I have that was truly was when I just went on a quick tour of the set, and they were in the middle of building the bathroom, and that was when I was like, whoa. The first day on the set was more nerves about what I was going to do with the performance, but I just remember being blown away by the fact that this room that had only ever existed in my imagination for the past 4 years was now there. You could touch it.
The bathroom stuff was filmed chronologically in the sequence that they happen in the script, but when more than 60% of film takes place in one location, you want to try and find ways to actually make it interesting, you know? You want to mix and match it a bit, change it a bit. I had all these really lavish and really grand ideas of like moving the walls aside and doing dollying shots around the actors and just trying all this different stuff, but there was just no way to pull them off. Just ended up all being handheld, and you just shoot it as quick as you can, turn the camera around, shoot the other reverse actors, and then the AD would be like, come on James, we're moving on to the next scene.
Working in the bathroom set, which was out of 18 days, 6.5 were there, so a little over a third of the film was shot in the bathroom. And this set was very small. And when we built it, we basically built it out to the size of the room that we were building it in. Unlike a lot of movie sets where you take one wall off and now you got all this space, we were all in there. And you look at the bathroom on screen, and for every shot that you see, you have to stop for a moment and realize that to get that shot, there's a camera dolly, dolly grip, camera operator, myself, the director, the script supervisor, the video monitor to watch it on. So there's this ton of equipment, and it's all has to be behind the camera. So now if you look at the movie and you look at one of the wide shots where you're seeing, like from Carrie's point of view, Leigh chained to his corner of the bathroom, and you're seeing the whole bathroom, just picture 15 of us standing on each other's shoulders, back behind the camera, stuffed into this little corner. So that's what it was like every day in that bathroom. And then, you know, of course, adding all the blood, which was a progressive task. And it came to the point where I was constantly going, okay, don't step in the blood, we gotta cover up the blood. And people were starting to step in it, and footprints were going through. And that was like the last thing you needed, was to see like a grip's footprints going across the bathroom.
Tobin was laying there the entire time, and God bless him, man. That's no easy task to be laying on the floor every day.
To be able to go up to one of these great character actors and go, hey man, we need you to lie on the floor for the entire shoot, and we're gonna cover you up in blood, and if you don't mind, when we move the cameras around, we're gonna be stepping on you every now and then. I hope that's cool with you.
There were a few incidents where things were getting flung around the room. There's a lot of throwing in Saw, like throwing photos back and forth, throwing the hacksaw. And there was a couple of times when things would land sort of too close for comfort. That wasn't good.
First day it took about an hour and a half. Second day it took about 45 because we knew what we wanted. And James had passed on the thing. And then the third day it took about, I don't know, 20 minutes? 10 minutes.
We were on that set, trapped in that bathroom, chained to the wall for 7 days. We had a little nail that opened the manacle. One day they put a nail in there that was a little larger than the orifice it was supposed to go into, and I spent much of lunch in the bathroom while everyone else was eating. That was a good little bit of method for me, you know, get a sense of the being trapped. It was a little nerve-wracking, you know, especially when the props guys are going, I don't know. Maybe, should we try this?
A lot of people think that the hacksaw actually cut through the foot, but not at all. We turned the blunt side of the hacksaw down, so Kerry would actually be using that side to saw his foot. And literally, you run a tube behind the blade, and basically from the tube, you just pump blood into it, and that's all it was.
I did actually cut my leg when I did that. Even though they blunted the hacksaw, James was yelling at me, "Faster, faster!" And I was like, well, that makes sense. I mean, I think I would definitely be doing it faster if I wanted to get this thing done. And before long, I felt this twinge of ow. and before you know it, the fake glucose blood was mixing with the real thing. But it was just a small cut. It's nothing. Here, you can see it there. There you go. There, an acting exercise.
And because we'd shot it in sequence, we were doing the ending on the last day, and we pretty much had to get it all in one take. So it's always good to have everyone just going, all right, just get this right.
Because if you don't get it right, we're moving on.
Yeah, we're moving on.
That's it. No, that was definitely the funniest thing, trying to shoot around the set that was being torn down as we were filming. We were trying to beat it before the production crew started tearing down the set. It was like Richard Corman.
So you're sitting there weeping on the floor, and then someone yells cut, and then you like look up and the walls are coming off and everything, and it's like, yep, that's great, let's move on.
We had written that this guy is caught in this trap by Jigsaw, and these drills come alive and they're gonna go into the guy's head. So we spoke to our special effects guy, and he said, well, I can make fake drill tips.
Glue sticks with just aluminum foil on them. And when they're spinning around, they look just like these. Just going nice and slow, and the two drills are going to go through the person's head and meet.
The movement of the drills towards the guy was done by hand, so we had total control of that movement. And the way the track was built, it could only go so far.
And you have to figure out a way how to stop this machine, which is unstoppable. And the guy has a gun on him and decides he's going to blow the drill bits apart. It's basically a body squib inside of a steel container. Put the stuff inside the cap that you want to make them look like pieces of drill bit. You'll get sparks and everything flying out of you. It's not like, wah, you know, like dragon's breath or something.
Suffering of others.
The razor wire stunt was actually pretty straightforward. Like, the razor wire themselves were just rubber. They look very dangerous on screen, but they're not. They were plastic and they were very safe. And once again, you know, to help sell the illusion that the thing was a lot more painful than it actually was by undercranking the camera. When I undercrank the camera, it speeds everything up. And sound, you know, when you put sound on top of it, it just really just sells the whole illusion. The jaw trap was built for me, you know, by a really great special effects house here.
Now, the original jaw trap was made in Australia, and it was much bigger and much heavier, and like didn't actually work. This one here really is hero because it does actually rip open. It's made out of aluminum, so it's much lighter, so you can wear it around your head, and you can see an actress's face even though this is this wide. If it was as big as the other one, you know, you'd be looking at like this.
They use compressed air to basically blow the thing open.
Nitrogen ram opens up this jaw going in both directions. We used a little pyro device inside the plaster head to boot, so at the same time that Charlie pushed the button to open this up, I pushed the button and blew the head apart.
That sequence consists of two shots. First, the throwing it down, and then it blowing up. It blowing up was just literally running a tube from the jaw trap to a compressed air device, and they just literally just blow it off camera, and the whole thing just pops open. Which we had to shoot first. We had to shoot the thing popping open first, because if we had done the shot where the guy threw the jaw trap onto the floor, we would have busted the device. So these are the kind of stuff you have to think about when you're making these sort of films, because you only have one prop and you have to make it work, and you cannot screw it up. If you screw it up, there's no chance of coming back to it again.
The car chase scene is poor man's process, which is the way we used to do it in the old days. And basically, you know, poor man's process is you bring a car into a dark building and you turn off all the lights and you only light the people inside, and you have somebody running alongside back and forth with a light to emulate street lights going by, and you put another light facing them on a stand and you rotate it through and it looks like headlights, and you get two big grips in the back with some sticks under the car pushing on the sticks, and it gives the movement to the car.
The film is such a dead-on serious film, you know, with everyone going nuts around us, right? And it's such a bleak and almost sadistic film, right? That once the camera cuts, right, the behind the scenes stuff is so light and happy. Everyone's just laughing all the time. It is nothing like the actual film at all.
I think there's a point in time where you have to get serious, and there's a point in time where you clown around.
It's been wonderful so far. The script is really intense. I think you're going to and Carrie and his subtle ways.
It's gonna be no.
Do you trust him with the weapons?
It's like a kid in a candy store.
Do you trust him with the weapons, Leigh?
Yeah!
Do you trust James with the weapons?
We did a lot of things to keep the set light.
This is the new fall collection. It's called Downgraded.
Tease each other and do impressions and things like that.
Carrie would bust out with his Marlon Brando impersonation every chance he gets. He does the most spot-on Michael Caine, I kid you not. And Leigh, well, Leigh just does everyone. And, you know, put those two together and, oh man, it was just hysterical.
I like to joke around too.
They play a few tricks on me.
You know, my general philosophy on filmmaking is that it's way too hard what we do, and so we really need to be having a good time doing it.
They put cream cheese in my car so that when I went to open the handle of my door, there was cream cheese in my hand. I never got that. It took me weeks to get that out.
Carrie was very conscientious and really into the story, and he loved to tweak the script on a daily basis. So one day we decided we were going to get even with Carrie for his revisions. And it was the day that we were in the interrogation room in the police station, and we decided we were going to write new pages for the scene.
And the scene just did not make any sense at all, and it just freaked Carrie out. Carrie was like, hang on a second, my character would not do this.
My second AD comes to me on the set. She goes, you gotta get in there, you gotta tell him it's just a joke, because he's gonna go nuts. And at that point in time, all of us, we couldn't keep it together anymore. We all started laughing, and he's looking at us, he goes, what? I said, you didn't really think we were gonna film those pages, did you? So, somewhere out there, Carrie Elways is still waiting to get me, but it was worth it.
I owe him a couple of things. Yeah. So I hope to work with him again soon.
It was so much fun shooting the film, actually, you know. Not fun for me. I was tearing my hair out, but it was fun for everyone else. When we were cutting the film, I realized there were certain crucial scenes. Like there's the scene where Ken Leong's character, Detective Singh, gets shot. We never have that. We don't have the shot of him getting hit, falling onto the floor. I mean, that's a big chunk of the film missing there. So I called my director of photography up. I said, do you think you'd be able to pull in a really small crew and basically sneak back out there and shoot cutaways such as the close-ups of Shoney's hands sifting through the guts, like the 3-4 close-ups we did for that? Those were Leigh's hands, by the way, which was why the hands look a bit more masculine. Shot of Ken flopping onto the floor. That was Leigh dressed up as Ken. There's a great shot in the film where, in the scene where Detective Singh walks through the door with his shotgun up in front of him, right? In the widescreen version, his head's actually cropped, so you don't actually see the face, but in the full frame one, the crop has been removed, so you see it's actually, you could actually see Leigh's face coming through the doorway. I'm like, guys, this is, we shouldn't be doing this. It's a completely different actor. What's going on here? The guy from the bathroom's now a cop? What's going on? It doesn't make sense. A lot of the aesthetic in the film really did stem from necessity. Like the editing, the quick cutting of the film was to hide a lot of flaws in production, because if I held on some of the shots for too long, you could see basically the spit and tape holding the set up. You know, it really is all about finding ways to make it work.
Leigh and James, we got them an apartment with an extra bedroom, and we actually put the editing facility in their bedroom.
My editor, Kevin, came on board pretty much from the very first day of shooting, because we had a deadline. We had to try and get it done on time.
We'd work our 12-hour day. I'd send James and Leigh back to the apartment. They'd go in, Kevin would be there, and James would spend like a couple more hours working on the film.
It's good in that, you know, you can come straight in from work and then there's an editor
looking at the footage and you get to see what you've done that day or the day before. It's bad in the way that I can't get to sleep because I can just hear myself screaming my head off in the background. I have to get earplugs. I must remember, note to self, earplugs.
And because of that, I really only got like 3 to 4 hours of sleep each night, and for 18 days non-stop, that was pretty tough.
And they have zero privacy. There's editors, there's assistant editors, there's, you know, an editor's apprentice in their apartment going through their, doing everything.
One of the things I did to help fill in gaps, because when we first cut the film together, we realized there were a lot of holes in the film that we did not have shots for. There'll be shots missing. I'll be like, not because we didn't shoot it, but because we shot it right, and because they were so quickly shot that once you cut it together, it just did not work. But fortunately for us, we had a video camera, which was supposed to be the surveillance camera, and we shot a couple of scenes with the video camera, and boy, was I grateful for that one camera, because that one camera, we did fill in a lot of gaps with that camera. And another technique I used too was using actual production stills taken by the still photographer on set, right? And I would look at some of his publicity shots and go, these are such great shots. These are shots that I wish I had time to shoot with my actual film camera. So what I ended up doing was going in there and literally stealing a lot of his still shots and splicing it into the actual film. So all the quick shots that you see, shots of locations, of the warehouse, of Carrie's character walking out of the apartment, shots of him just out and about, those were production stills. And those were production stills that were taken for Adam's darkroom, because Adam's a photographer. Fortunately for us, all those shots ended up fitting into the story of the film. During post-production, when we were cutting the film, Kevin and I worked 6-7 days a week trying to make this deadline, just to get the first rough cut done, hand it over to the Sundance people and see what happens, you know, and we just rushed like mad to get it done. And yeah, and luckily for us, the Sundance people saw it and really liked it and said, guys, this film would be perfect for the Midnight Madness section. And when I heard that news, I was like, ecstatic. I was ecstatic for like 2 seconds, and then I go, holy crap, now we have to finish the film on time. And then it became another race then to try and get the film done in time for this actual Sundance Film Festival. And we literally finished it 2 days before we had to screen the film at Sundance. That was definitely the first big festivals I've ever been to, and look, if it has to be any festival, it must well be the Sundance Film Festival.
It's probably the most nervous I've ever been, that first screening at Sundance. I stayed in the room for the start, up the back. They had a seat for me and I said, no, I'm not sitting down. So I was literally back to the back wall watching the audience more, like sort of chewing my nails off and watching anyone that even moved or got up. I'd be like, where are you going? Oh no, we're finished, that's it, we're dead. She's leaving.
On that first night, oh man, I was so nervous.
He's even worse than me. He cannot watch an audience watch his film. We used to leave. Every time the film was screened, we can't be in the room.
And everybody loved it there, and that kind of started the hype going about it.
It's interesting because every sort of fantasy, for want of a better word, that I'd had about this film came true. Back in Australia when I was writing it, I would constantly fantasize about us making the film with our own money, it getting picked up by Sundance, becoming the hit of Sundance, then it gets picked up and all this stuff. And it's interesting, it's almost like, you know, positive affirmations, you know, it's not a bunch of bullshit. Like everything that I used to constantly think about seemed to happen.
Lionsgate picked the film up literally just before we went to Sundance.
One of the things that made Saw such a success was we had from basically September through the end of the year to get it to a screening at Sundance, did some tweaks to it based on that screening. And then that was January of 2004. The film was released in October of 2004. So there was all this time to really build word of mouth. Lionsgate is amazing with their publicity machine. They do a lot of work on the internet. And so by the time the movie came out, there was just this huge built-in audience.
The fans are great to us. The House of Jigsaw website's been a great forum for meeting some of these guys. We try and stay in touch with them and talk to them, kind of cultivate them, I guess. Some of them are passionately blind to any of its, you know, flaws or whatever. They just love the film. Some of them are so passionate about it that they question everything about it. They want to, you know, why didn't they just shoot the chains?
I love spotting mistakes in films, and boy, are there a lot in Saw.
But that's great. That's actually been one of the best things for James and I, is watching people take ownership of the film and argue about it. You're thinking, oh my God, they're discussing heatedly something I thought up and James thought up. So that's just an honor as well. So we want Saw 2 to continue that. The last thing we want is these guys who've been so passionately devoted to it to be disappointed.
It's like once the film is out there, it's no longer yours. And you kind of just have to let it go.